Absolutely.
How
Yeah.
things with you? You got on your World Series hat.
Yeah.
OT is all shaped up, shining.
Well, I pretty much always golf in the World Series champs hat, but this is the one, just basically not division champs, uh, league champs. So National League champs. So this is the one you got when you go to the World Series. And yeah, man, I'm ready. Let's do the countdown. Bam. What up? What up? What up? Episode
Yeah, yeah.
54 of the Collective Podcast live. I am AC from LA. Next to my man, Saucier Senior. Just got some good news about Saucier Junior. Ryan, why don't you go ahead and share the news with our viewers and listeners?
He got accepted to another college, Norfolk State, which is in the MEAC, and he's excited. I'm excited about the possibilities,
All
um,
right.
especially being accepted to a HBCU. That's big.
Yeah. So, if you guys are wondering what the MEAC is, it's the Mideastern Athletic Conference. And geographically, Norfolk State is in Norfolk, Virginia. Now, I would say Norfolk, but I learned that when I was down there that's not how you say it. So I was trying to
Mhm.
get the little twang and say it like they say it in that region. So
They done you out like that Pace Picani commercial.
yeah. So
Norfolk.
get a room. Straight out, man. Straight out. Hey, man. Listen, we obviously we dropped on you guys at a different time today than we normally do. We got some things going on Thursday, so we had to hit you on Wednesday and hit you Wednesday morning. But we're still ready to bring it to you. So you know, welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Dietrich? Dietrich say he needs some coffee and donuts. You know what's crazy? This is to Dietrich and Rod. Rod probably already had it happen because he's working organized football. But I actually had arbiter money finally come through on Monday and Wednesday. So I hadn't had arbiter money come through in, over a year, and finally had some money hit the account. I haven't transferred it to my arbiter card yet, my arbiter MasterCard yet, but I've worked 4 lacrosse games thus far and gotten paid for 2 of them. So I'm just waiting on another school to pay. And then I returned to men's lacrosse tonight. So like adult, like men's club lacrosse, where the equivalent would be semi-pro football or what do we call pro-am basketball. So they call it men's club. So I returned to that tonight. So looking forward to that. Nice little 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. in El Segundo. Yeah. That being said, let me get my Rakim on real quick. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a podcast to step to. Think of how many weeks shows you slept through. Time's up. I'm sorry I kept you. Yo, we are back. Episode 54. We've been doing it for over a year. No vacations. I mean, we've had, whatever we need. We've been stuck in the house. Pandemic, right?
Right.
But we're here once again. Um, don't know if we're gonna get Trey today. It's a little early for our super guest host Anthony Cobbs to come through, and it was kind of last minute notice for him, so I don't know if he'll be in. He's probably somewhere teaching, but shout out to everybody that's had the opportunity to check us out. So, Rod, um, I could start with the women's tournament, which is what I would like to do, but let's
Loving
go
it.
ahead and let's go
Loving
ahead
it.
and talk about. Go ahead.
So I've been loving the women's tournament.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, the first upset of the women's tournament was Rutgers falling And I'm a big C. Vivian Stringer fan, so I really want the Rutgers program to do well. So I hated to see Rutgers go down, especially when they had such a nice lead in the third quarter, but they basically just went stale down the stretch. And you could compare that to UCLA going stale down the stretch, but UCLA had a much bigger lead and was also playing great defense. Rutgers went stale and stopped playing great defense, stopped playing good defense, and so they wound up falling. So that sucked. But talk to me, Rod. Good tournament thus far. What do you think?
Man, that Wright State game against Arkansas finish, that last 5 minutes was probably the best, one of the best finishing 5 minutes that I've ever seen.
That finish in Wright State, Arkansas, was frantic.
Several,
It
I
was
mean, like back and forth lead changes. One hitter, Ann Frierson, who I ref many times from Long Beach Milliken for Wright State, big center. She got a 3-point play. Player from Arkansas came number 33, who was, I mean, like when we talk about clutch and a closer, number 33 from Arkansas, the little guard, she was killing it down the stretch. Free
yeah.
throws, 3-pointers. I mean, she was doing it all. They just came up one basket short, and Wright State hit a couple free throws, and that made the difference of the game. But that game was what you want out of a basketball game. Forget the let's try to shoot as many threes as we can to outscore the opponent. I mean, they played defense, they played offense. It was balanced. They had post play, they had jump shots, they had everything I love about basketball.
Hmm.
And I like to see balance. I don't like to see missed threes back and forth for 7, 8 minute stretches, and then somebody hit one, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I'm with you, and we know, Rod. We know that if they could remove, if you could somehow petition all leagues to remove the 3-point shot, you would, or if you could at least get a limit to maybe 10 3-point attempts per game, we know that you would put that in action because you feel like the over reliance on the 3-point shot has diluted the game. So
Yeah.
we know your takes on that. Speaking of the threes, I later want to talk. It makes me think of the Golden State Warriors and your disdain for their offense, but that makes me think of Draymond's claim that he's the greatest defender of all time. So I
Well,
want to talk
I
about.
actually like Golden State's offense because it fits them. I mean, like when you
Oh,
have when you have two of the greatest shooters in league history, that's a different story. But my
oh,
problem is everyone doesn't have that.
okay, okay. Okay. Well, thank you for clearing that up because I really thought it was. I thought the root of it was Golden State. I didn't know that it was just
No,
Golden State's influence.
no. I love Golden State. I love what
Okay.
they bring to the game. But like I said, everyone right now plays the same way. And throughout time, especially in the golden, what I call the golden era of basketball, the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, there was balance, you know, and which leads into what you just said about um, Draymond. It's easy for him to claim he's the greatest defender and he guards 1 through 5 because the bigs don't play. So it's easy to guard a guy who's not gonna do anything with the ball except run towards the rim and hope for a lob. That's the easy part.
Well, let me
Now you
ask you
have
a question.
post
Let me ask you a
defense.
question, Rod. Is it actually easy? Because the next time James Harden plays defense will be the first time he played defense. So, is it actually easy?
It's probably much easier for James Harden than it is for Draymond Green.
Thank you. Now we can leave it there. All right. So back to the
Yeah.
tournament. Hey, shout out to Simeon Henderson.
Yes, sir.
Simeon Henderson, Mr. Chicago. Hey, Mr. Chicago. We had Scoop Jackson on last week. We gotta get you back sometime soon. But yeah, we had Scoop Jackson on last week, um, helping us out with the show along with Kriston Johnson. Shout out to those guys. Scoop hails from Chicago. Simeon Henderson hails from Chicago. Simeon actually, if you could put it in the comments, Simeon, I would appreciate that. He recently spoke at his collegiate. What's up, Anthony Cobbs? What's up, AC Sports Live? Simeon was recently honored by his alma mater. And if he could put it in the comments, I'd appreciate it so that I can say it correctly. But he graduated from this institution, and then I want to say he might have given an address, or I know he spoke. I know he spoke in front of the current students at his alma mater, and I know that was an honor for him. And he was a highly decorated student athlete at his alma mater. So if he could give us some more details, I'd appreciate it. But he might have bounced off to go shake hands in Chicago because that's what he does. So if I can't get the comments, if I can't get his notes, then I'll get them. I'll get it to you guys next time. Yeah, we're a little early for
and add the title to his book also.
And add the title to your book. Yes.
Yeah.
Your motivational book. Simeon is the one that gave me the hoodie, you guys, that I came on here with. I want to say 3 weeks ago. The hoodie with LeBron James and the late great Kobe Bryant having a laugh in the locker room in uniform. Maybe it was 4 weeks ago, but Simeon is the one that shot that to me. And then he gave us some Be Symbolic t-shirts. I got to wear one of those soon. But yeah, shout out to Dietrich, Simeon, shout out to Anthony Cobbs. So, all right. In the tournament, we've got, what do we have? Let's see. We got 24 teams remaining because we've got the first 8 into the Sweet 16, and then we have 16 more teams that need to play today. Is that right? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, we have 8 more teams that need to play. 16 more teams today that need to play to get to see who those final 8 are in the Sweet 16. So who do we still have today? Let me check. We have Missouri State and Wright State today. And Rodney was talking about the player from Millikan. And if we want to spell Millikan correctly, which we do, it's Millikan, unless you're talking about the street near me where it's an E. But yeah, Millikan out of Long Beach. So we got Missouri State, Wright State. We have Oregon, Georgia. Excuse me, Oregon, Georgia. We have Northwestern versus Louisville. Again, I say Louisville, but if I'm saying it like them, it's Louisville, right? And you got to do your mouth, your throat, your face. Louisville. We got Alabama and Maryland. Fear the turtle. We've got Texas A&M and Iowa State. We got Arizona and BYU. Got Indiana and Belmont. And of course, we have Texas versus my alma mater, UCLA. And I want to say that might be the nightcap. It should be. Yeah, that's the latest game on the docket. So that'll be when I'm on my way to the field. All right, Rod, let's talk about it. Wright State, Missouri State. 13 against the 5. Who you got?
You know what? I'm gonna stay with Wright State. Well, let me clear that up. My heart says Wright State. If I was a betting man with my pocket, I would say Missouri. Because Wright State's best players got injured the other day.
We leave all that betting man stuff to Trey when he shows up occasionally. So
they got a big injury. I don't know if she's gonna return, so I'll go with Missouri.
Yeah, that leg, talking about the leg injury, right?
Right.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, Missouri State. That's the clean pick, but yeah, I'd like to see the upset. All right, Pac-12, Oregon at Georgia. Well, it's all in Texas, but Georgia is the higher seed. Oregon, Georgia.
Woo. I'm gonna go with an upset. I'm gonna go with Oregon.
So you had Andy Landers and Maria Taylor the other day talking about the Georgia Drexel game, and it was a bit of a, Andy Landers was the perennial Georgia coach, did a lot there. So they were talking about their dogs and how they were eking by Drexel. I liked what Oregon did against South Dakota, and I wasn't so impressed with Georgia versus Drexel. And I'm gonna keep it Pac-12, so I'm gonna go with Oregon. I'm gonna go Oregon in the upset. All right, Northwestern 7 seed versus Louisville. Louisville 2 seed.
Louisville.
Yeah, Louisville has been stellar this season, and they didn't disappoint in the first round. So I'm going with Louisville also.
Yeah. Shout out
All right.
Brittany Smith from Central Florida. Uh, she's like a family. She's basically family. She plays for UCF, and Northwestern beat them the other day. I was kind of sad for her.
So you go get your revenge through Louisville?
No, I just think Louisville's gonna win.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Shout out to Central Florida men and women. Rodney's got ties. Boom. I said it. All right. Now we have. Okay, that's done. Texas UCLA. Moving on. UCLA, go Bruins.
I'm going with the Bruins.
Yes, sir. Alabama versus Maryland. Maryland with the 2 seed.
I'm going with the Terps.
Don't call it a comeback.
On the street, so I'm going with the Terps.
So, yeah, I had many years of going with Gary Smith and the crew, Juan Dixon, them on men's side, and I definitely, you know me, Christy Tolliver. I rock with the Maryland men and women unless they're facing my Bruins. Back when they were in the ACC, I used to always get excited when they would play Duke because a really good friend of mine, and you may call this blasphemy, but really good friend of mine was a Duke and Carolina fan, or he is a Duke and Carolina fan. So like, first of all, I thought that was funny because like, what do you do when they play each other? That's like UCLA, USC.
What does he do when they play each other?
We never talked about that because I don't like either one of them. But I feel like it was more so Duke than anything else, and maybe it was because Duke had more success during our teenage years and young adulthood before he wound up going away. But Duke Maryland, man, I had a lot of fun with that. Like I would call him and just rib him because Maryland and them, and then Maryland messed around and won the championship on the men's side and the women's side. Boy, that was some fun times. Even though I'm a Bruin, I just I pull for some teams that I pull for, and I pull for the Terps, Fear the Turtle, all of that, and that was before I'd ever even been out there. So yeah, definitely going with Maryland over Alabama, and we just want Alabama to fall. No matter what, even on the men's side, we want Alabama to fall, but we'll talk about that later, right? Right. Mm-hmm. All right, boom. Moving on, we have all the way down here, Belmont, the 12 seed versus Indiana, the 4.
I'm gonna go with Indiana.
I'll be honest, I don't know enough about Belmont. I know they beat Gonzaga, but beyond that, I don't know enough about them to know much. So, yeah, I think I'll just stick with Indiana on that. But they did beat the 5 seed Gonzaga. All right,
and the West Coast Women's Conference wasn't strong this year, as they normally would be.
Well, yeah, the who won the tournament? Like why? No, not who won. Whoever won the tournament was the 7 seed. So that tells you that there was probably some parity there. Whoever won that West Coast Conference tournament was the 7 seed. I forgot who it was.
Was it Brigham Young?
Yeah, it was BYU. Yeah. Oh yeah, BYU. Yeah, they beat Rutgers. Yeah, so they were like the last team in, and yeah, and they got that first round win though. So, but yeah, and they're actually still alive, and that's our next one, BYU, Arizona.
I'm going with Arizona. The luck won't run forever.
Yeah, because they went undefeated in the tournament and beat Rutgers. So yeah, it's time. I got Arizona.
We're getting to the point where the good teams kind of rise to the top.
Now, what was really, really interesting to me is throughout the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season, they had Stanford slated as a 1 seed, UCLA, who was anywhere between 6 and 8 as far as their rankings in the country, kept being slated a 3 seed. And they had Arizona at 2, and I think it's just because of the way that things worked out. Arizona didn't play as many games as UCLA in conference and wound up having a better record, even though UCLA beat them. It was a weird situation. But then ultimately, UCLA made it to the Pac-12 championship game as the 3 seed, and lost to Stanford in the final and still wound up with the 3 seed. And then they dropped Arizona down to a 3 seed. So we wound up with Stanford as the number 1 overall seed, and then 2 threes in UCLA and Arizona. But like I said, we still have Oregon, Oregon State, Stanford, UCLA, Arizona. Still have 5 teams alive out of the 24 remaining teams. Now, I want to say all of the Pac-12 teams play today. Is that right? No, not Stanford, but everybody else plays today. So Stanford is through to the Sweet 16, and then you have 4 more Pac-12 teams trying knocking on the door. All right, so they're trying to surpass the men. What'd you say?
Stanford played last night.
Yeah, they beat Oklahoma State. All right, so is that everything? Texas A&M, Iowa State. Texas A&M for me.
Yeah.
It's not even though Troy pushed them, Texas A&M is one of those teams that could have potentially had a 1 seed this year. I've liked what they've put out there, so I'll go with them. All right, cool. On the men's side, we have 4 Pac-12 teams through to the Sweet 16. The Sweet 16. Are you impressed, Rod? That's 1/4 of the Sweet 16 teams.
Extremely impressed because
Why?
Pac-12 got no love for basketball this year. None.
Some would argue, Rod, and as a matter of fact, my guy Jason Dillon is arguing it right now. Some would argue that there's still no love because we're talking about a situation where there are 4 teams through and nobody's talking about it, or not enough people are talking about it. Do you agree?
I agree with that.
So is that East Coast bias? Is that West Coast hate?
There's clearly some kind of bias, and I've long said they only give love to the teams who traveled the best. I've held that theory my whole life. Football, basketball doesn't matter. When you got fans who traveled, they automatically rank you in the top. A team like UCLA or like Oregon could have 5 returning starters coming back the following year and still be ranked number 16 or 17 versus somebody in the SEC with two starters returning and being ranked in the top 10. It's always been like that. Football and basketball. It hasn't changed over the years.
Yeah. And he clarified it, but just in case you guys missed it, when he says those that travel well, he's talking about those that bring their fans. And we've long talked about how we don't necessarily fill up. Well, I mean, we do now, but there are times when we don't fill up arenas and stadiums here because there's so much to do in the LA area, so much to do in California in general, and in a lot of places in the West Coast. And the weather's generally great, so people are outside doing things. They're not stuck in a field house, right? So they're not necessarily traveling like these other schools. All right, well, let's get into it. We have speaking of the West Coast, the number 1 overall seed on the men's side is from the West Coast. I don't know that we can even call them a mid-major anymore. I mean, we have to because they're not in a major conference. But the undefeated Gonzaga Bulldogs out of the West Coast Conference, undefeated number 1 overall seed. If they make it to the Elite 8, and if SC continues their run, there would be a showdown. But before we get to that, let's talk about what's actually happening. So we have 4 teams through. Did you happen to see SC play, Rod? Against Kansas?
Say it again.
Did you happen to see SC play against Kansas?
I did. That's a game that I would not miss. I'm high on Evan Mobley. Like, I think he could potentially be the number one player in the draft. That high on him. He's the
Mhm.
real deal.
So talk to me about that game.
There was no game. One team showed up and one team didn't. They beat them a lot to a little, and it wasn't close. They, I mean, USC is long. They're athletic. The Mobley brothers were inside, outside. The other role players did their thing. They didn't show a weakness. Even when they switched on defense, they had so much length that it bothered Kansas. They were too
Hmm.
big.
Hmm.
I think the only team that could really keep up with that kind of length is Gonzaga.
Okay.
USC has a strong chance to get to the Final Four.
Wow. Do you think they will?
If they have a good chance, if they don't run into a conference opponent, because in conference, those coaches see you all the time. They know what to do to get a win. But against teams that don't see you on a regular basis, like a Baylor or something like that, USC would give them fits. You know, the only thing that holds USC back is that free throw shooting is atrocious. They the score could have been even more lopsided had they made just like say 70% of their free throws.
You just gave me an idea. Instead of calling them the Trojans, we could just call them atrocious. USC atrocious. I'm sorry. I digress. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So free throw
that
shooting,
crosstown hate.
but I'm pulling for the Pac-12. So and I had that talk with my guy Jason Dillon yesterday. He was like, "Nah, man, I hate UCLA no matter what. The hate is real on 140th Street." Yeah, okay, I get it. He lives on 140th. All right, so the hate is real. Yeah, the hate is real, but it's different in basketball for me. Like the tournament is a beast where you want your conference to show out.
Yeah.
And I always want the Pac-12 to do well. And when I look at people who, my close friends who either played for USC or coached there, I have love for them. And so I don't always want SC to tank. When you look at my really good friend Jessica Cheeks. Sorry, I went to school with her sister, and then I met her later. So Jessica Cheeks played there. Jennifer Cheeks, I went to junior high with. My guy who I grew up with, Bert Harris, who played point guard for SC from '92 to '96. I've got people there. People who coach there, all of that. So but when it comes to the tournament, I always want the Pac, back in the day, the Pac-10 and now the Pac-12 to do well on both sides. I don't ever want anybody to beat UCLA, but beyond that, and I told him if SC could pull this off, and by the way, we're still alive, but if SC wound up pulling it off, I wouldn't be mad because that would be another Pac-12 championship in the books, another championship for a Pac-12 team. I don't think it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be mad if it did. That's my point. All right, let's go ahead and let's look at your picks, Rod. I'm trying to pull it up, and I am having problems. Hold on, NCAA tournament. Yeah, NCAA tournament. All right. Well, let's go with the first one. Who SC is playing? What, Oregon?
Is that who they're playing?
That's a conference game right there, right? So
SC and Oregon. I'm gonna
is
still
that
go
who it
with
is? Let me make sure because I'm going off of memory, but I'm just going to pull it up. All right, let's go. Let's go in order. Oregon State, Loyola Chicago,
Oregon State.
and Loyola Chicago is favored and the higher seed. So you got Oregon State. All right,
I'm
so
going
keep
Oregon
it
State.
big conference. That's Saturday. Villanova Baylor.
Baylor.
All
Mitchell,
right.
the point guard for Baylor, is the real deal.
Okay. So you got the 1 seed staying alive there. Oral Roberts, Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Syracuse, Houston.
Wow, that's gonna be a tough one. I'm gonna go with Houston.
All
I
right. I'm
think
going to agree.
Jahan's son can only go so far.
Okay. So I'll go with Baylor, Arkansas, and Houston also. But I'm going to go with what Rodney said. I'm also going to go with Oregon State in the upset. So Pac-12 and then the three higher seeds. Then Sunday, we have Oregon versus USC.
I'm gonna go with USC.
Actually, in the nightcap, USC is the higher seed, but it's 6 versus 7. So you go with SC. Then we have Michigan, Florida State. Michigan is barely favored.
Ooh, I hate that they have to play each other right now. I'm gonna go with Michigan.
All right, Gonzaga, Creighton,
Gonzaga.
Alabama, UCLA. Go Bruins.
I'm gonna go with the Bruins.
All right, so I've got UCLA, I've got Gonzaga, I've got Michigan. Is Will Johnson still at Oregon? Let me check.
I'm not sure.
Let me check because if this means something. So give me a second. If I pick against SC, it's not hate. I just explained that to you guys, but let me just make sure. I need to check something. Okay. Did he opt out? Did he opt out of the season? Let me see. Let me see. Freshman, sophomore. All right. I'm not really clear if he's playing. All right. He's on well, he was on the team last year, but obviously the season didn't. Yeah, I don't know. He's not listed. So, yeah, okay. I'll go with SC. Oh boy. I just said that, didn't I?
Well,
All right, so we're going with
they played once this year, and USC blew them out.
okay. So we're going with the higher seeds there. All right, so we can keep that. So the Gonzaga USC inevitability, Rod, who do you have? Because that would be the Elite Eight matchup, right? Let me just make sure.
Gonzaga.
So that is West Region. Yeah. So Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And then UCLA, Michigan. Wow. You won't hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I would have to go. I would have to go Michigan.
Okay. So I go Gonzaga. I go UCLA on that, obviously, on the UCLA part. Um, Oregon State versus Houston. Oregon State, Houston.
I would still go with Oregon State.
Okay, so you got Oregon State going to the Final Four. Okay, and then Baylor, Arkansas.
Uh, Baylor.
Okay, so if I'm reading this correctly, you have Baylor, Michigan, Oregon State, Gonzaga.
Yes.
Okay, and overall, you got Michigan.
Uh, Gonzaga.
Gonzaga. Okay, so you think they'll finish it out undefeated? Okay,
I do.
all right. So I got UCLA all the way, and if UCLA doesn't get it, I got Michigan. All right, so there you go. But the Gonzaga is a great story. Like it's Mark Few. I'm not going to say he's underrated. I think he's been getting his due for a while. and he's locked in there, and they always have some good momentum because they only get challenged by St. Mary's. It is St. Mary's, right?
Yeah.
When they get challenged at all. Shout out to my man Casey Shabola who went to St. Mary's. Yeah. All right. So moving along, and then on the women's side, I don't even think we did picks that far, but we're further behind, so that's fine. We can do that another time because we still have 24 teams alive on the women's side. So
When
yeah.
does South Carolina play again?
Uh, well, it would be the Sweet 16. So I want to say that's. Hold on, let me tell you what day that is. That'll be the first day of the Sweet 16, which is. Hold on, because they won yesterday. So yeah, I don't know the next day of the tournament. Where do I find it? Oh, let me just go to the bracket. My bad. All right, South Carolina plays. Looks like 327 versus Georgia Tech.
Okay.
327 is Saturday. So Saturday versus Georgia Tech, UConn, Iowa, Michigan, Baylor, Stanford plays the Wright State, Missouri State winner. Yeah, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. And then NC State plays the Belmont, Indiana winner. And then the rest of the teams are not in yet. What's up, Cobbs? Cobbs just hit us with a yo. You teaching right now, man? You can't get on. All right, so yeah, there it goes. Let's have a moment of silence for Elgin Baylor. Is there anyone else we should have a moment of silence for before I drop?
Not off the top of my head. We did include Marvin Hagler last week, right? I want to say we did, but let's
You want
include
to
him anyway.
let's include him just in case. So let's please have a moment of silence for the legendary Marvin Hagler and the legendary Elgin Baylor. All right. So
Elgin
shout out to
is
what'd you say?
so underrated, man. Elgin Baylor is so underrated when we talk about the GOAT conversation. It's ridiculous what he could do on the floor. He's one of those players when and for me personally, I look at a player's skill level, what they can do um, in certain situations, and he had his skill translated to any era. There are certain players who translate to any era, and there are great players who don't translate to any era, whether they be system type players or whatever. Um, and he is definitely one who translates to any era.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't the Bob Cousy one hand dribble type of guy. You know, he could do it all, everything. I think he gets slighted because he didn't win a championship. But I mean, there are certain teams that just get in the way. Boston dominated, so he couldn't get it. But that doesn't take away from how great he was. He's severely underrated, and so is Marvin Hagler for that matter. When they talk about the GOAT conversation, no one he Marvin Hagler fought everyone, and the loss he had to Sugar Ray Leonard was questionable. Um, because I actually thought he beat him, but that was around the time where Sugar Ray had the eye problem and he was coming back and people were pulling for him and he had a layoff and everybody was pretty much pro Sugar before the fight even started. And then once he started doing the little flurry thing, at the end of rounds, people were just caught up like, oh, he's doing his thing. But if you really pay attention to boxing, and you see what punches land and what punches don't, not all of Sugar Ray Leonard's punches were landing. He was hitting glove, and that's another story. But when you talk about, the GOAT conversation, we never hear Marvin Hagler, and he fought Aaron Pryor, he fought Tommy Hearns, he fought Sugar Ray Leonard, he fought Roberto Duran, he fought Alexis Arguello. He didn't duck anybody and beat them guys.
It's so hold on. Let me let me do a couple things. Let me go do a couple things. I'm gonna come back to what you said. So we have my mom checked in, Judy Carter. Shout out to you, Judy Carter. Love you, mom.
Yep.
Patrick Pratt is on. What's up, Straw? Straw stands for Strategy Awareness. STRAAW. Yes, double A. Straw Strategy Awareness. He said that Alvin Edwards Jr. out of Carson just passed away about passed away 9 days ago. So we will retroactively include him in our moment of silence, just because you put that up while we had our heads down. So we will include Alvin Edwards in that retroactively. So yeah, silence for him. Now I want to shout out Anthony Cobbs and Jimmy McElroy the fourth, who together put out the 1585 podcast, and separately Anthony Cobbs has AC Sports Live, and Jimmy McElroy the fourth has the Sucker Punch podcast. They talked extensively about Tommy. Well, actually, Cobbs showed Hearns Hagler, but people keep talking about the Hagler Leonard fight. Somehow Cobbs is well versed on the fight, and somehow Jimmy is also. Now I understand Rodney being well versed on it because Rodney was probably 35 when the fight took place. But I'm too young. Like, I could go back and watch it, but what's the point at this point? I'll just take you guys' words for it. But they thought it was suspect. Rodney thinks it's suspect. Pratt is saying that he always thought it was suspect. You can see that Pratt agrees with that, and of course we're not here about Sugar Ray Leonard, because next thing you guys are gonna tell me is that No Mas didn't really happen. But even though we all saw it happen, and of course he still doesn't want to talk about it, but I don't know, man. But going to your Elgin Baylor, let's go back to Marvin Hagler. Yes, it's crazy that you can have a Hall of Fame boxing career and be underrated, right? But I think that is the case for Marvin Hagler. I agree with that, Rod. I agree that his name just doesn't. Now, okay, so I don't hear a lot of GOAT conversations in boxing, but when they do happen, yes, I don't hear Marvin Hagler's name. But I generally only hear a few names. It's generally around Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson. It's Floyd. Sometimes there's Sugar Ray Leonard in the conversation. So I haven't heard extensive boxing conversations, but I've never heard Marvin Hagler's name come up. So that is a great observation on your point, and I think that boxing and boxing history is really so subjective that his name should come up more. His name should be up. It should be in every conversation, even if you don't end up saying Hagler was the greatest. I think that his name should come up, just like Michael Jordan comes up in every single GOAT conversation, even though he's not. That's not the answer in all of them. It comes up, right? And I would say probably Bill Russell comes up in every one of them also, even though by and large we don't consider him to be the greatest. He still comes up. Hagler should come up. I agree. Now, Elgin Baylor, super underrated.
Grossly.
And boy, did he help build a foundation that wound up winning a championship when he went down with an injury and then subsequently retired. And they offered him a ring and he didn't accept it. Man, just I didn't know him. I interviewed him a couple times, through his tenure as the general manager of the Los Angeles Clippers, and in my role as a sports writer. I never got to see him play, But I know about the legend of Elgin Baylor, and boy, was he great for the game, and just so underrated, like you said, because probably because he didn't have any rings as a player. Well, he didn't have any rings.
And
Uh,
people tend to go with the sexier pick, with the guy with the flair. And Elgin Baylor didn't play with a bunch of flair. Um, he just put in work. It's
right.
almost like Marcus Johnson. He just put in work. He wasn't trying to, make it look so entertaining. And the same can be said about Marvin Hagler. Like Sugar Ray Leonard was the sexy pick. You know, his shorts, the tassels on his shoes. Everything was sexy for him. His look.
Hmm.
I mean, he was one of those guys that was like a ladies' man. Like, hey, look at him. And it was the same for Michael Jordan. The flair when it wasn't just that he dunked, it was the flair in his dunks. It was, the flair when he drove baseline. It was the theatrical part when he hit a turnaround jumper or when he stuck his tongue out. Like that's what attracted people to Michael Jordan. It wasn't that he was doing things that no one had ever seen, um, but he just did it with so much theatrics that people
So,
were like,
so you
"Whoa!"
so you talk about the tongue. Let me divert real quick. Do you think that LL Cool J's career was prolonged because he started licking his lips?
I think it was prolonged because he knew that he had a look and that getting a female fan base would keep him in the game for 40 years. I do believe
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
he
yeah,
does. He
yeah,
has fan base.
for
And as
sure.
long as he does a few crunches and planks and licks his lips, he will always be able to record an album.
I only watched like one episode of NCIS Los Angeles, but I think he licked his lips in that on that show too in the one episode that I watched. Hey, but listen, I was like the original LL Cool J fan on the West Coast. I want y'all to know my name was LL Cool A, and I knew every lyric to every song. Oh man, and I was bigger and deafer. I want y'all to know I'm bad.
I'm with you because I went to Fresh
Man,
Fest '85. I went to all of those shows. I was on
wow.
it.
Yeah. Whew. All right, man. Shout out to Cobbs is here. Straw is here. You guys dropping knowledge on us. And what I love, I love the collective podcast, and I love when we talk about sports because Rodney is not, how you call people students of the game. Like I would say Patrick is a student of Patrick Pratt is a student of basketball for sure. Like the game of basketball. Like I think Pat Pratt could be a basketball historian. I think Cobbs is pretty well versed in multiple sports. Yes, LL Cool A, homeboy. Rodney is like not so much a student of the game. Rodney is the father or the grandfather of the game. So when you have the grandfather of the game and you have the students of the game, boy, it's a well-rounded show. Yeah, man. I'm sorry for your loss, Patrick. Um, the gentleman that we mentioned, he knew him since the seventh grade. So definitely sorry for your loss. Speaking of losses, this is important. If you guys know anyone who has unfortunately lost someone due to complications related to COVID-19, FEMA is you can encourage them to apply to FEMA for up to $7,000 in relief for the FEMA COVID-19 funeral fund. I will make sure to drop a link, so at the end of the podcast, so that people can get that information from FEMA. They're offering up to $7,000 of relief. Rod, this question's for you. Cobbs is asking, who's more underrated, Hagler or Elgin Baylor?
Ooh,
That's a great question, by the way. Mr.
That's an
Cobbs?
excellent question. I want to say Elgin. I'm gonna go with Elgin because I think Hagler is talked about in the pound for pound conversation, but not in the GOAT conversation. And that's where he gets kind of dragged. Elgin, I mean, when you talk about the the GOAT, to me is kind of a travesty that no one throws Elgin in there or Shaq. I mean, like, but we're not going to get on Shaq. We're just straight up Elgin. He doesn't get mentioned, and it might be that some people blur him being the GM of the Clippers, who constantly failed with what he achieved as a player, because everyone knows, at a certain age bracket, everyone knows him as the GM of the Clippers, and every year they had a top three pick. To
Yeah,
no fault to him because he drafted great players, but he
yeah,
had an owner who acted like an idiot and wouldn't pay any of the players. So they only played for stats to audition for another team. They weren't going to stay with the Clippers. But I mean, think about the teams that he assembled around 1990 with Danny Manning. Uh, you know, I think it was Doc Rivers on that team. Bo Kimball. He had a roster, and they made some noise in the playoffs. But you talking about some Portland at that time who was killing everything in 1990 91, with pretty much a super team.
91,
So
91.
I don't blur the lines when it comes to Elgin about his GM skills, because I thought he was a great GM. He gets overlooked in that as well. But as far as a player, there was no one that could handle Elgin. No one. I mean, like, he was, scoring as much as he wanted to score. And what's overlooked is a lot of times on those Laker teams, that was when, during those times where they talked about Wilt's phantom ankle sprain, where he didn't want to check back in against Russell, and other things going on with Wilt, where they just couldn't get over the hump. Um, so I don't blame Elgin for that.
Well, this is interesting. All right. Hold on. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Oh man, I missed some stuff. All right. The second time he heard fight was suspect. We still talking about Sugar Ray? Moving on, moving on, moving on. Jordan was more substance than Sugar Ray. I never heard a Jordan Sugar Ray comparison. That's interesting. You have to elaborate, Patrick, when you make it back from Zoom, brother. Yeah, L Cool A.
I think
L
I know
L
what
Cool
Patrick
A.
means, and I'll agree with that.
All
Jordan
right, all right,
Jordan
talk us through it. Talk us through it.
Jordan was more substance in that, Sugar Ray had some of those fights where he would, like, throw 8, 9 punch combinations and they're not landing, but the crowd is going crazy. But there was no doubt when Jordan got the ball and hit you with that turnaround jump shot, there was no faking that. I mean, Jordan had a sixth sense that players don't have. He knew where traps were coming at all times. He knew where double teams were coming at all times. He just knew, and
Okay,
he'd
so
be gone by the time you got there.
okay, so then in that regard, I feel like, and devil's advocate, but I feel like you could say Giannis Antetokounmpo is more substance than Sugar Ray because we're talking about boxing versus basketball, and boxing is a showman sport, right?
Yeah, but
So is that fair? I'm just asking, is that fair?
Giannis doesn't perform in big games as far as the playoffs are concerned, and Sugar Ray did. Because I mean, whether we say Sugar Ray was a showman or not, he performed. He won the fights. The Hagler fight was questionable, but the others weren't.
Okay. All right.
And at that time, those guys that may have been like the probably the best division, one of the best divisions ever in that in the history of boxing. When you got that many guys who were great at the same time, and most of them are in the Boxing Hall of Fame.
And that's the middleweights, right?
That was the middleweights.
Yeah.
And so at that time, guys weren't making the money that they make now. So they
No.
fought way more often and they didn't duck each other. They gave the fans what they wanted to see because they were looking for those title shots. They wanted to unify titles and make all the money.
I feel like every clutch conversation somehow shades you guys to take shots at Steph, and I feel like every boxing conversation leads you guys to take shots at Floyd, even if they're like subliminal shots. You're talking about ducking and dodging. Are you throwing shade at Floyd, or am I just making that up?
No, I don't think Floyd ducked and dodged.
Okay,
I think I
fair
think
enough.
he fought who was there.
Okay, all
Um,
right.
and some people feel like he did. I don't. He fought them when he fought them. Now,
Yeah,
if they were on his level or not, that's another topic. But he fought all of them. The only fight that didn't happen was Mayweather and Paul Williams, and that was the fight that I was afraid for Mayweather to have because I think Paul Williams's output at the time, prior to the motorcycle accident and him being paralyzed, he threw a lot of punches per round. He's throwing like 800 to 1,000 punches per fight. And he's 6'2", 6'3". And I think Floyd would have had some issues with that. Just my personal opinion. But other than that, he fought everyone that everyone asked for.
you you literally get, well, you're volunteering, but you literally get paid for your opinion, right? So we want your opinion. That's what this is about. But yeah, you're not getting paid yet. So yeah, we want your
Well,
opinion.
'cause some people may see it differently. Like I said, some people think Floyd ducked and dodged. I don't know who he ducked and dodged that someone actually really wanted to see, or someone he would have had a fight with that actually could actually stand up to him. I mean, like there weren't too many people on the Sugar Shane Mosley, Manny Pacquiao level, that at that time.
Right. All right. Thank you. So Pat Pratt, going back to the Elgin Baylor conversation, says Alan Rothenberg had more control than Elgin. And then when Elgin did get more control, Donald Sterling made sure to handicap him. So yeah, we covered that. But also, Cobb's adding to that, he shouts Rod out for having a great point and says his inability to win as a GM has given his name a black eye. Talking about Elgin, and he's saying Jay Moore made that point. What's up, Jay Moore? He won no chips as a player nor as a GM, but it doesn't erase his dominance on the court. Um, and I would argue that, and Rodney actually already did argue it. He made some great moves as a GM, but then if you can't sustain because of your payroll, like I mean, you can only do so much. Like you're literally not the one signing the checks. You can put all the pieces in place, but if the guy won't pull the trigger, then there's not a lot you can do, right? So clearly you nailed what Pratt was talking about with the Sugar Ray and Jordan point. Who the hell is Sugar Ray Seals? Is that him making fun of? I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means, Rod?
No, he's not making fun. There was a Sugar Ray Seals.
Oh, okay. Never heard of him. Unfortunately, I never heard of Paul Williams either, so I need to go back and look. I'm sorry that he's paralyzed.
Yeah,
I didn't hear.
he had a motorcycle accident and paralyzed from the waist down, I think.
Wow, wow. Um,
Okay, I may have mixed that. I think he's right. I don't think they did fight.
we're talking about Hagler.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one person because I think Aaron Pryor fought welterweight.
Okay, so clearing up that Hagler did not fight Aaron Pryor. So of all the 23 people that Rodney mentioned, he fought 22 of the 23. So Patrick Pratt,
Right.
Patrick Pratt clarified that for us. Thank you, Straw. Yeah, yeah, I think this is horse crap. But Dietrich is talking about the word on the street is that Floyd was ducking Pacquiao until he got old. But
Well, that
but he
that can
says he
be
doesn't
cleared
agree
up
with it.
because and I've heard that rumor a lot, but you have to remember that Bob Arum wouldn't allow Pacquiao to fight Mayweather. It wasn't that Mayweather ducked him. Bob Arum controlled Pacquiao and used to be over Floyd Mayweather. When Floyd Mayweather broke away from Arum kept his fighters away from fighting Floyd Mayweather because he didn't want Floyd Mayweather to make any big money, which it turned out to slap him in the face.
Yeah.
Um, but they just fought when they fought, and even when they fought, it was lopsided.
Tell me in your mind, Rod, who if I could say if I say name the two biggest boxers that came up tethered to a promoter that broke out on their own, who would you say they are?
Say it again. Two biggest fighters who.
Who went independent. So let's just say it like that. The two biggest boxers to go independent.
Wow. Um, well, Mayweather is the biggest, and
And who was the biggest before him?
I don't
You are
know
forgetting. You are forgetting.
who
Golden Boy Promotions.
you talking about.
De La Hoya.
Oscar.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't agree?
Yeah, I didn't know he went independent. That for a length of time. I know he maybe at the end, but I didn't. I thought he was always with the same guys.
Yeah, so it was at the end for him, but it was still big, like um he blew up as a promoter promoting his own stuff, but then he had a stable of other fighters that were fighting under Golden Boy Promotions, and so that
Okay,
was
I see what you're
pretty
saying.
big for that to happen. Someone
You
moving out from Top Rank or whatever. Bob Arum moving out from the other people. It was okay. Golden Boy. I have my own umbrella, and then obviously, the money team did all kinds of other things. Just really put caps on it. So
Cobbs, you right. Golden Boy partnered with a few boxers.
okay, it's still it's independent, and if Golden Boy Promotions is the big name,
Yeah,
I'm not saying nobody else did anything,
right. Oscar was on
but
top of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not knocking the executioner by any means, um, and I'm not saying anybody gets this done by themselves, but if someone has to be at the top because it definitely wasn't a 50-50 partnership, and if it was, it wasn't displayed that way. But let's say it is, then I would say De La Hoya Hopkins. It's still breaking out from your standard promoters who probably haven't boxed in 50 years, if they boxed at all, and going independent. So yeah, B Hop, shout out to B Hop. By the way, I played adult softball at Holly Park I play for a team called the Relatives, and there's a guy named Sammy, and I don't remember Sammy's last name, but Sammy had a team out there also, and I did not realize that Sammy was so connected in boxing. If you guys think about the black man with the short haircut, with the goatee, who has the son in the ring looking like him, that's Sammy. Sammy been in the ring in every big fight, and I don't know like if he's part of a promotions team or what he does, but he's in the ring a lot, and I didn't know who he was when we were out there playing softball. So sharing that. I don't know. Looking at this, Cobbs, are you saying Hopkins already had an independent name and Golden Boy? Like I'm not sure what you're saying there because I didn't say anyone did it alone, but
He signed on with Golden Boy to help promote. It's kind of like Oscar added him in as a little small partner. It was a way for Hopkins to make some money, pretty much doing him a solid. But Hopkins never had his own company. He promoted through Golden Boy as well as I think 2 or 3 other fighters.
yeah. So yeah,
But I'll never forget that body shot that Hopkins laid on Oscar that made him squeal.
facts. Brianna's back. Yeah. So Hopkins is still rocking with Golden Boy. That's cool. Is that right? Yeah, that's cool. Glad to see it still happening. Yeah. So no, Golden. I mean, De La Hoya started his thing, and I'm sure he had a lot of help, but it was his, and he signed Hopkins. And here's the
Right.
thing: if you know who to sign to get you over the top, like Nike knew who to sign to attract talent. Like Reebok knew who to sign to attract talent. Adidas knew who to sign to attract talent. I mean, the people behind the scenes to attract the athletic talent. Then cool, but the brand is still the brand. So um, Golden Boy is the brand, and so other people are there. So yeah, I got you. So now you're asking about the Zone, which is a network and an app. Yeah, but I'm looking at something now saying that Canelo Alvarez is leaving or has left the Zone. So yes, but they're literally talking about Hopkins reacting to Canelo Alvarez leaving. Yeah, Dietrich has it right there. So boom. Wow, we didn't got into boxing and all of that. All right, so baseball starting up. All right, so what was your final answer? Who's more underrated? You said Elgin Baylor is more underrated than Marvin Hagler, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you said largely because at least Hagler comes up in a pound for pound conversation, if not the GOAT conversation. Elgin is just
Right.
like left
Left
out of
out.
all.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Draymond Green says he's the greatest defender of all time. React.
That's the furthest from the truth. Draymond is,
It's not
I
the
guess,
furthest from
maybe
the truth, right? You could
the
disagree, but it's not the
furthest.
furthest.
The furthest.
James Harden.
No, he's not even in the top 10.
Okay, let's start with eras. Let's start with eras. Is he the greatest defender
I can
now?
give you a top 10. I can give you a
Hold on.
top
Is he
10
the
just
greatest
in no
defender?
particular order off the top of my head.
Just hold on, hold on. Is he the greatest defender now? Because let's start with that.
Yes.
Because if you don't even believe he's the greatest defender now, so who's the greatest defender now?
Kawhi.
Is he in the discussion for greatest defender now?
Yeah, he would be mentioned because I mean the NBA really doesn't have any. So
No, I don't need a qualifier. Just
if you
yes or
have
no.
300 players and you
No
only have
need a
3,
qualifier. You always want to give a qualifier. Is he in the discussion for now?
he's in the discussion for now.
Okay, so do you, if we're weighting things, right? Weight, do we give more weight to Draymond because he plays every game and Kawhi plays 67% of his games?
Well, I don't think either plays every game, but
He plays every game.
he plays more than Kawhi.
He plays 80 games a year, right?
But he doesn't. His stats don't help his cause, nor does the fact that they
You're not a
shoot
stats guy.
everything. And huh?
You're not a
No.
stats guy.
But when it comes to defense, it helps because really you can't really stat chase on defense. You can for block shots. You can go chase block shots, but you can't stat chase for like jumping in passing lanes and taking that chance because you're gonna get burned on the offensive end. So there's not so many times you can do that. Or getting rebounds, which he only gets about 8 or 9 a game, which is about as many as James Harden gets or Russell Westbrook. So
they're getting those from following their shots. He doesn't shoot.
Rebounding is a part of defense. No, I mean, well, just only keep it to defensive rebounds. He's not doing that. He guards bigs, but the bigs shoot jump shots. So, it's not the same as Dennis Rodman guarding Larry Bird, who can post and play defense, or guarding Patrick Ewing or David Robinson or even Shaq on a given night, and still getting 17 rebounds a game. Like he's not close. He's not close. I wouldn't. He's good for the era he's playing in because he doesn't have to do as much. A lot of these teams play zone. So if nothing else, he could wait for a rebound, and he's still only getting 8.
He's doing so many other things, but it's a weird thing for me because I'm a big Draymond fan, and when I saw this, I'm like, dude, how could? First of all, I hate when people talk about themselves. I hate that, especially when they're still playing. And to say that he's the greatest of all time, I don't even need to. I don't know. I mean, I don't really need to think hard to say I don't think that he is. But so you say he's excluded from the top 10.
Yeah.
Why?
I listened to Tony Allen on XM yesterday, and he made a great point. He said other players should be calling you the best of all time.
Well, that's what I just said. Thank you, Tony Allen.
Yeah.
And I didn't listen to Tony Allen yesterday. That was an original thought.
And there's not one player I've ever heard say that about Draymond Green. Not one. And I love Draymond Green. I don't always like his antics when he gets a call against him. But as far as his game, I've always told you. I mean, even when he was at Michigan State up until now, and people say, "Oh, he's overrated." He brings a lot to the table. He's a Swiss Army knife. He does it all. And when their window was open for winning, he was actually hitting threes. But I'm one that thinks that once your window closes, things start to not drop the same. Some of the shots that you were making don't hit the same. Some of the free throws you were making don't hit the same. And the window is closed, and you retool your team.
So you saying, like Scissor said, it hit different?
Yeah, it definitely hits different.
Okay.
So, and some people's windows close quicker than others.
All right, so let's go with that. Close windows.
Yeah, I think
is LeBron's window closed at 4? Is LeBron's window closed?
No, it's not closed because they can.
Well, hold on. Yeah, Dietrich, talk to him. Dietrich, talk to him. If he could hand check, grab, clothesline, if he could body slam Greg Anthony in the middle of an Indiana Pacers New York Knicks game, Draymond is okay. First of all, Patrick Pratt, you got to spell the man's name right if you're gonna be calling him a joke. Can't spell his name wrong and call him a joke. I take exception to that. Go ahead, Rod.
of all, see, I gotta correct people on this because I watch a lot of it. AC. You know, I watch a lot of video. Hand checking has always been a foul. It didn't have a name prior to now, but hand checking has always been called.
Because of the hold.
Always been called. They just called it a hold. But I strongly disagree with people who say, "Oh, well, that's because you can't touch them now." No, they called hand checking back then. All you got to do is watch the tapes. So that part is what I disagree with. Now, what's softer now that people don't want to talk about is this zone defense and this switch everything. So when LeBron is coming up the floor, Draymond is guarding him, but then he quickly switches to KCP. No. So now you got a downgrade in who you're guarding. And yeah, I can guard him. He's easy. We can't count
Yeah,
on him to make a shot.
yeah,
Versus the players who before, like a Jordan, or like a Pippen or a Rodman, you on that player all night long. You don't get to take a break. And a lot of times when the coach says, "Hey, you know what? Jordan's back in, Dennis, go back in." There was no, "Oh man, my groin is sore. Uh, does Anthony Davis check out and all that kind of stuff?" No. And those guys played nightly, every night. No zone defense. If you couldn't play defense and they had to keep sending a double team for you, you were likely to get put on the bench. That's
yeah,
why the trend of white players was starting to decline. All you got to
yeah,
do is watch tape. These players were getting these athletes were getting bigger and faster and stronger and more athletic, and that's where the game was going. And they said, "Oh, you know what? Let's just make it a jump shooting contest. Let's slow some of that down." Back in the day, European players couldn't even could they if they got drafted in the sixth or seventh round, because back then they had like 12 rounds. They couldn't even make the team. You had to be special, like a Drazen Petrovic or Sarunas Marcelonis to make the team. Most
yeah.
of them didn't make the team. They weren't strong enough and they weren't quick enough.
Arvidas Sabonis.
So now, and that was a slight on Steph Curry that he wasn't quick enough when the draft was approaching. But no one really understood that you didn't have to have that quickness anymore because it was going to pick and roll ball, that you were going to get help getting to the basket. And that was something that the other guys weren't getting. They had to be able to break guys down on their own.
Yeah. Let me respond
So,
to Cobb.
yeah.
Um, I can't do anything against any of them. Cobbs, Pippen, Rodman, Kawhi, or Draymond. Now, let me take it a step further. Wow, Draymond, great company there as defenders that Cobbs is mentioning you with, and he could just rest his case right there. Not the greatest of all time, but one of definitely one of the greats of this era, and it depends on how wide a net you want to cast. Like if we say top 25 defense, I like to let a person finish their career. That's the other thing. Like, he's mid-career right now. But how wide a net do we have to cast to include Draymond? 30 defenders, 35, 50? I don't know. Pratt is saying KG is a better defender. That, okay. Um, but to Cobbs, yeah, I like this is a pick 'em. Yeah, this would just make me laugh. I can't do anything against any of the four of them. Who would I
Well,
rather defend out of them? I'd rather defend Draymond.
and
But
and a defender that's grossly underrated is Rasheed Wallace.
yeah, but we did give him defensive props here when
Yeah,
we talked about him just
we
being
talked about that
underrated.
before, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean Rasheed Wallace could guard anyone,
Well, you said
and
Tony Allen. You said Tony Allen was the one on the show.
say again, yeah, yesterday,
Yeah.
yeah, he called in because he got hot about what Trayvon Green said.
that's because Tony Allen was a great defender.
And my boy that played for the Clippers and Kmart. Kmart is very
Kenya.
underrated.
Yeah.
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 So there are a lot of people, and they could play perimeter and post defense. And Draymond doesn't have to play post defense. He
But
can.
that,
He can against somebody who doesn't know how to play. Yes.
well,
But once you get him deep under the basket, he does not have the height to stop anyone. It's been seen.
yeah. Well, and he can't do anything about his height.
Right. And that's a knock on him. So, Kmart, Rasheed Wallace, they could guard guards, and they can get in the paint and bump up and down with Antonio Davis or Patrick Ewing. They could do both.
It's funny that you mentioned that you're talking about these three players together because the three of them were considered to be technical foul prone. The three of them, Draymond, Rashid, and Kenyon, technicals at the wrong time,
Hmm.
but solid defenders. What's up, Sam Gardner the third? Shout out to SG3. Draymond plays it all, Sam. Like it becomes weak side defense because he scares the ball away. Let's stop. Let's not do this. Okay, not the
Well,
greatest of all time, but we're
but
not
you
just
know
gonna
what?
say this dude can't play
He
defense.
he has a point. That's what the defense has gone to. It's gone to help side defense and zone. He's correct. I mean, look at Whiteside. He gets all his blocks from help side defense for the majority of the time.
Well, you said
He's
Whiteside
facilitating.
exists. You said Whiteside exists to fill up a stat sheet.
Exactly. He's gonna be that help side defender, and he's gonna chase down a block, and then he's gonna commit a couple fouls, and he's gonna sit down and get his 30 million.
But let's be clear. Like, okay, I hear what you're saying about Draymond not being able to guard the post because he's 6'6". But Draymond does what the team needs Draymond to do defensively. Draymond will also pick a point guard up full court. So he doesn't just play weak side. That's all I'm saying. He doesn't just play weak side defense.
No, he
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 does
doesn't.
what's asked of him. But look, comment on this from Cobbs because he's talking about you saying hand checking always exists, and then we'll come back to Sam. Give me a
What
second,
time
Sam.
get up on an offensive ball play and have my hands up?
So forearm, he's talking about an arm bar if it's extended.
Right. Yeah, all those things have been called prior to now. They didn't have technical names like armbar or hand checking to it. Um, because Alvin Robertson was probably the strongest hand checker of all times. But if he impeded a player, then yes, that whistle was blown. But then again, I feel that guards were stronger back then. I mean, if you go look at a picture of Terry Porter, go look at Rod Strickland. Rod Strickland is gunned up. Like those are the guards you see in every night. Kenny Anderson, to look like he was skinny, was strong as I've seen in a guard.
Georgia Tech.
Those guards could get through it. Now these guys are just quick twitch people. They run away from the weight room. They use what are those little resistance bands and all that kind of stuff. They don't want to bulk up at all. These bigs are like 7 feet 215. That's not a big.
Yeah.
That's a small forward.
Yep. Cobbs, I agree with you. I didn't hear the context unto which Draymond made the statement or statements he made, but it's I don't know. I'll go back and read it or listen to it, but I might be Draymond's biggest fan, and I don't even have to think for more than 4 seconds to know that he's not the greatest of all time. Um, and I believe it's Kawhi now, but I believe Draymond's right there. I think that I give so much to Kawhi because Kawhi plays outstandingly on both sides of the floor. Like he's gifted. He's superbly gifted on both sides of the floor because Draymond plays hard on offense. He just can't do a lot. But Kawhi is stellar when he 67% of the time because he plays 2/3 of your team's games. So that's something else. Sam, yeah, we talked a lot about Michael Cooper here. The discussion was whether or not Coop should be in the Hall of Fame. Sam, we talked about that. I want to say 2 weeks ago when it was announced that Marcus Johnson was finally a finalist. So we talked about Coop and some other people, and we talked about how when I was growing up, my great aunt lived near Coop, and he used to tell me how important defense was. And we talked about how great he was. Paul Pressey.
Yeah,
Any comment on Paul Pressey, Brian?
a beast on defense,
Yeah,
a beast, and could hit big shots for the Bucks. Yeah, definitely. I
yeah.
mean, you had quite a few. I mean, at that time, some of those players got into the league by playing defense. Like Tony Allen pointed out that the only way he was going to make the team is becoming a defender. He got injured, he started losing his athleticism, and he figures, hey, you know what? I need to concentrate on just doing what I can to make sure I get on the floor. And so he became a defender. And I mean, the same could be said about Dennis Rodman, Michael Cooper, all the great defenders. Like teams had a guy at that time who specialized in defense. That was their role. And we don't have that anymore.
I have a
Nobody
dark
worries
horse.
about it. Who's
I
that?
have a dark horse in that discussion who made the team because of his defense, but became a 3-point shooter with rings.
Bruce
You know who I'm
Bowen?
talking about?
Who?
Bruce Bowen.
Yeah, I said that.
Oh, you just said that?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
Yeah. Because, I mean, coming out of Cal State Fullerton, he wasn't on anybody's radar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But he
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 made the
would slap the
team,
floor and
locking
get
folks
low.
down.
Yeah,
And so Tony Allen made the point of, and he made this point about the difference between what he did and Kobe and some of the other great defenders versus what Draymond does. And he was saying that Draymond is not asked to be a lockdown defender. He's not asked to guard the other team's superstar that last 5 minutes of the game when you have to stop them from getting baskets to win this game. And I completely agree with that.
well, here, let me go to a point you made earlier. You've never heard anyone in the world say that Draymond, anyone other than Draymond, say that. Well, who said Tony Allen was
There it is.
their toughest defender of all time? Kobe. Not to say that Tony Allen was a better defender than Kobe, but Kobe said Tony Allen was one of the greatest defenders of all time. So I got to take what Kobe said. Kobe's
Right.
my guy, but you got to take what Kobe says. So Tony Allen, in my mind, becomes an authority in this discussion.
He can speak
And
on it.
so
Exactly.
and so I'll take Draymond top two right now. I won't take him as the all-time great. And again, it depends on how wide that net is. If either Draymond or Kawhi get into that greatest of all time because the game is so different now. And to be a great defender, well, we just know that there aren't a lot of them now. So can they even crack that?
And to your
I don't know.
earlier point about Draymond not believing what he put out, and he's trying to trend. The person on XM says, I think Draymond is trying to put himself in a situation to become the next Charles Barkley. He wants to be on TNT with the guys and position himself so when Barkley retires, he can fill that spot. I don't know how true that is. That was his opinion
Pick me.
on it.
Pick
Speak
me.
on it.
But Charles Barkley with at least 3 rings.
This is true. This is true.
Charles Barkley with some cachet, with some more cachet. But I don't know. He has said some things in the past that have been kind of antagonistic. But listen, I think Draymond's a great defender, and I just want to leave it at that. You're right. I don't know what he believes. You know what, Sam? We've talked about Rudy Gay here before too. I want to say we talked about Rudy Gay when we were in the bubble. But Rod, speak on it. What do you think about Rudy Gay as a defender?
He's solid. He's very solid. Because he's so long and he can move his. You got to have lateral movement. I mean, if you don't have that lateral movement to move your feet, and you know this, AC, because we calls about this. You can't move your feet, it's a wrap.
Right.
I just think it's ironic with him saying that with Klay Thompson on the team, because Klay Thompson doesn't get the respect he deserves as a defender because everyone gets caught up in his shooting. But Klay Thompson is the guy who Golden State uses to lock up the other player. Even when they played the Lakers and Kobe was still there, they didn't use Draymond against Kobe. He'd have killed him.
Yeah, Klay Thompson.
They always use Klay Thompson.
Listen, I want you guys to know when Klay Thompson comes back, he's going to take all of the clutch out of that clutch Lillard. No more last second makes for you, buddy, when Klay comes back. Oh, man. Shout out to, now, when you say Adebayo, we're talking about the new Adebayo, but I want to shout out my guy Brendan Adebayo from UCLA. Brendan Adebayo. Go Bruins. I always want to tie it back to the Bruins. Okay, so Dietrich is talking about Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis. Oh, Rodney's got a lot to say about Anthony Davis, and then Bam Adebayo.
Scratch him. You got to add Ben to the list because Ben has established himself as the premier defender in Philly. And when I heard him being mentioned for Defensive Player of the Year, I'm like, what? Because I didn't look at him like that. But I locked in on him several games after that, and he's legit. He steps out on guards up by the hash mark. He can move his feet and he can play D. And if there is a discussion about a defender who can guard all 5 positions, it would be him. It wouldn't be Draymond.
Well, hold on. You can have a discussion. It's just if he's not your final answer, that's one thing. But Draymond has guarded all 5 positions. So he's got to be in the discussion, even if he's not your answer. It's not like someone who can't play defense at all or someone who can only guard one or the other. Just have him in the discussion.
Yeah, he's in the discussion.
All right, and here's the thing. I hate the Celtics, Dietrich, but we've talked about this. To me, Jaylen Brown is the key to the Celtics' success. I've said it here more times than a little bit. Marcus Smart is a head case, but I believe that he's their best defender, and I think that Jaylen Brown is the best combo. And I think they're both severely and sorely underrated. So I like them both, and I hate the Celtics. So Dietrich, yes, good point.
Yeah. Marcus Smart brings that intensity that you want out of a defender. But to your point again, he's one of those guys where he's great defensively, but he will get a technical foul or something at the wrong time.
At the wrong time. Yeah. But I think that I said it here probably I don't know, during the bubble. Maybe was it during the bubble? Yeah. So however many months ago that Jaylen Brown is the most underrated player on that team, and he might be one of the more underrated players in the league. So just wait till we see later in his career. I think Jaylen Brown is better than we actually know.
I think he unfairly takes a seat to Tatum.
Yeah.
I just see Tatum chucking up a bunch of bad shots, and he's considered the leader of the team because he got drafted number 2, but he chucks up a lot of bad shots, especially when time is winding down.
Yeah.
I don't like his shot selection at all, and Jaylen Brown hits big shots routinely.
Yeah. Shout out to Nisha, Causey, Saucier. Nisha is
Yeah,
watching us. Shout out. Um, hey, is Javon on here? Jay Moore, you on today? I haven't seen you check in, but your bro is on here. Well, obviously you can see that, so you're clearly not on here. Yeah. Brown will flourish without Tatum. Yeah, was that happening? Is Brown leaving? Because I know Tatum's never leaving. It's one of those things. Like it doesn't seem like it affects Brown. It looks like Brown just wants to play. Um, and he wants to work hard for his team. Listen, again, I hate the Celtics, so I don't want them to do well. But for whatever reason, I recognize that Jaylen Brown is a key to their success, and probably the main key to their success. So I hope they don't accentuate him. I hope they don't accentuate his talent and do well. But then again, did you answer my question? My question from like 30 minutes ago: is LeBron's window closed?
no, yeah, I answered that question. No, it's not.
Is it closed this season?
He's still at a high. No, if he and AD come back and put a few games together to just get their rhythm back before the playoffs, they're fine.
Is it possible that the Lakers don't even make the playoffs?
Uh,
I mean, they lost by 70 last night to the Pelicans.
you know what? That's a good question. Well, because I don't know how long AD is going to be gone. I mean, what does he have a sore calf or something? And he's been out with a sore calf for a long time.
You used to say that he could have a misplaced eyelash and be out.
Anything, a hangnail, something.
Sam Gardner III. I would love to have Jaylen Brown on the Lakers. Rodney, does Norman Powell fit with the Lakers? Is there any room for him, and can he help at all?
I would like Norman Powell better than I would. What's what's Trey's boy's name? Who's doing absolutely
Trez,
nothing right now?
Montrez Harrell.
Trez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I saw it in writing. It's 2 Z's. It's a real nickname.
Yeah, we can cut some of that salary and take Norman Powell, pay him half and get more. Yes, I would definitely do that.
So, Dietrich, you say if AD and I can't give that dude a nickname. I'm sorry. If AD and LeBron are out longer than expected, I don't do nicknames with people who I'm not like a fan of. It's possible to miss the playoffs. But what's expected? AD's already been out longer than expected. And we don't know what to expect. So, what do you expect, Dietrich? I kind of think it's comical at this point. I mean, I hope everybody gets healthy, but I think they could miss the playoffs. And I'm okay with it. I'm actually at this point okay with thanking LeBron for his service to the greatest organization of all time. And if he doesn't win again here, I'm fine. I'm fine with him staying at 4 for several reasons. Yeah, that part. Baseball, Rodney. Moving on. Fernando Tatis and the Padres. Can they take the division? That would be the NL West.
Oh no, not not
Oh no.
not after not after the move the Dodgers just made to show up that pitching. Nah. Uh-uh.
So
We talking about Kershaw, as great as he is, may be like the fourth best pitcher on the team right now. That's scary.
we're, we're talking about one of the best starters potentially coming out of the bullpen with David Price. Like this is it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So all right, go back to this. Dietrich says 3 weeks. Yeah, okay, hopefully. So let's say they lose all the games over the next 3 weeks, they could probably still make the playoffs. So okay, I got you, Dietrich. Sam says no for the Padres. I say no. Rodney says no. Um, Tender love, Dave. Remember, he called him Tender Love. Rodney calls him Eyelash. Cobb calls him Tender Love, and I just don't call him anything. I thought you guys were wrong, but my goodness, yeah,
Hey, I'm
I don't know.
I always say I'm cold but fair. I wouldn't put that title on him if it wasn't true.
Yeah, but again, listen, Lakers fans, we once had Benoit Benjamin as a starter. Benoit Benjamin, when he was traded for Sam Perkins, in case you forgot. I talked about that on like the first couple episodes of the podcast. And now we have another championship. So yeah. Oh yeah, Sam he calls him Tender Love, and he actually even sang it one time. So yeah, so tender. Oh man, I don't know, Rod. This little 9 o'clock shot might actually work. Um, so I
Yeah.
got the Dodgers doing it again, but isn't it funny that we're gonna go from 60 games back to 162? Like a I don't even know what a full baseball season
Loving
is
it.
like.
I'm
Yeah. Oh
loving
yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited. So this is the hat that came out after they won the division series. No, after they won the NLCS, the championship series. The one that they got after the World Series is a darker gray. I golf in that.
Hmm.
Every time I golf, that's the hat that I wear. I somehow match it up with whatever I'm wearing. Like these are my favorite hats, and they're not Under Armour branded, so it works whether I'm wearing my Under Armour golf shoes or my Puma golf shoes, because I don't like to match mix brands. Um, all right, have a great rest of the show. Thank you, Sam. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate you. Please hug and
Yes,
kiss the
sir.
family for me. Um, out there on the East Coast, we appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, I hear you, Cobbs. I sang it. All right, Rod. You wanna add anything? You wanna break out early? What you wanna do?
Yeah, we can break out, man. I think we covered pretty much everything. I just glanced up at my television. The Maryland women are killing Alabama 50-23. So that's one pick we can pretty much feel comfortable about with
Bam,
a minute 40 left in the second quarter.
bam.
Um, yeah, that's what's going on right now.
All right. Um, we'll go Bruins later today. Women go Bruins on Saturday. Men, and if things work out today, then go Bruin women on Sunday. And yeah, go ahead and close out, right?
Hey, just keep your loved ones close, man. I knew a lady. I grew up with her family. She went to go see her son, who was in the hospital in South Carolina a couple of days ago. On her way back to Atlanta, where she was living, she got hit by a big rig. The car exploded. She was inside. She didn't make it. Um, Life can change in an instance. my prayers are out to her husband and her boys and the rest of her family. Is crazy, and it seems like people really are struggling to see 50 years old. I don't think she had turned 50 yet, and that seems like with so many deaths that I've seen happen, that's really like a hard age to get to all of a sudden. And I don't remember when I was growing up, my mom having friends who just passed away constantly like that, or people she knew. And I just have to wonder what that's all about. But on a brighter note, you know, things are looking better with COVID. Um, a mixture of the vaccine and plus people maybe being a little safer um, can contribute to that. I'm guessing it's a number of things, but it's I'm glad that things are getting safer. I'll be glad when it gets back to normal, but we got to continue to make sure that we protect ourselves um, and do what we need to do to stay healthy and keep your
Yeah,
family healthy.
yeah.
So, with that being said, I'm gonna enjoy the rest of this bright sunny day and take in this tournament. Until next time.
Thanks, Rod. Let's weigh in on this real quick. Cobb slipped the question in. I say yes. Can Dame get an MVP vote? Um, I think that Portland is on a higher trajectory than they were predicted to be at this point. You know, they were predicted to potentially be, what was it, 6, 7, 8 seed, and you know, they've been outpacing, you know, for the entire season. What do you think, Ryan? And you know, he's the verified leader.
It's blasphemous that this man is not mentioned in the race. He's literally carrying his team by himself. McCallum's been injured the whole season. He hasn't had his center for most of the season, who's one of the top centers in the Western Conference, if not the league. You got two of your best players missing out of your starting rotation, and you still have them in the playoff race. That says a lot about Dame Lillard. He doesn't have the luxury that James Harden has, or that even LeBron has. He doesn't have the luxury of any of these people, and yet his team is right there, um, and his numbers back him up. He's not just putting up numbers like in Bradley Beal's case. Well, he's averaging 30, but the team is at the bottom. He's putting up numbers and they're winning without two of his best players, and that's crazy because a lot of the people, especially on the East Coast, don't get to see him as often and see what he's doing, and it's like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. Well, he's my pick for MVP right now, Cobbs. So I don't have a vote, but if I had a vote, he would get it. Um, I want to have another moment of silence for, because I don't think we covered this last week. Maybe we did, but I want to have a moment of silence for the massage parlor victims in Atlanta, and then also the grocery store victims in Boulder, Colorado. So let's just have a moment of silence for those. Is it 17? I know there were 10 in Boulder. I think the massage parlor was 7 people.
8, I think it
8.
was
All
8.
right, those 18 people. Let's have a moment of silence. Um, my buddy Jason sent me something yesterday. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but the title was LAPD has shot 6 people in 7 days or 7 people in 6 days. I don't know the circumstances, but we're talking about gun violence with our moment of silence in the midst of every other way that people are dying. And it's just, let's see, LAPD officers have shot 6 people in the last 7 days. Yeah, 6 people in 7 days. I want the gun violence to stop. I want the violence to stop. I want people to stop dying. I want people to stop dying on freeways by getting hit by big rigs. People to stop being hit by cars as they cross the street, whether they're walking or riding bikes. Like, this is all horrible. I want people to stop dying from complications due to COVID-19. And a lot of this is all uncontrollable by by the victims, the people who are dying. It's out of their control. But for those of us who can control the things that lead to violence, let's please make the right decisions. Let's make the right moves. Let's make sure that we stay within ourselves. Let's remember as we're driving that if someone cuts us off, if we need to blow the horn to let them know that they're cutting you off or that they're cutting us off just so that they don't hit you, that's one thing. Don't stay on the horn. Don't stare them down. Don't chase them down. All things that I've done in the past and I've survived. Let's make sure that we backtrack from that, because we never know what's in people's minds. They may just be looking for the person to recognize that they cut them off just so that they can shoot that person, or so that they can ram their car into you. And then if you survive and then you think about it, it's like, was my mad dogging them worth me being in the hospital now, or someone in my car being injured? Don't chase them. Listen, I've done all of that stuff. I've got some of it on camera. It doesn't matter. Don't, just try not to. I'm not doing it. People in my family are not doing it if they have in the past. I just implore you not to, because it's so easy to lose your life. And then what? You're leaving other people behind grieving. And when they do the math, they say, what was it all for? Oh, because this person cut them off. It's not worth it. Just please keep that in mind. Please don't get comfortable. Please don't relax just because of what Rodney said, that things are looking up from COVID. Please still be as careful as possible. Please still give 6 feet of distance. It's called social distancing, in case you were unaware. Please cover up your nose with your mask. I just want to reiterate that when you wear your mask like this, not only do you look stupid, you're not protecting anything but your mouth. So remember, your nose is always open. Your mouth is only open when you open it, right? Because you're generally breathing through your nose. So when you're walking through a grocery store and your nose is not covered up, it's vulnerable. Your nostrils are vulnerable. And you're leaving other people vulnerable because you're breathing out, right? So cover your nose. If you're going to cover only one thing, cover your nose instead of covering your mouth. But obviously you can't do that. So just cover them both. It's really easy. Please. And thank you. This was episode 54. What's up, Jimmy Mac? We both got things on Thursday, so we wound up having the bus on Wednesday. If you, I don't do that, man. You know what I'm saying? Like Jim Jones said, we don't do all that. We don't do that pause. Okay, well, I don't do that either. We both had something on Thursday, Jimmy, so we wound up dropping the show on Wednesday. This is not necessarily going to be a regular thing, but please just watch the replay, and still go ahead and comment, and subscribe. If you guys are listening to this on the DSPs, thank you. Again, this is episode 54 live of the Collective Podcast. I am AC from LA. My man right here, Rodney Saucier, Senior. Shout out again to the people that joined us today. Dietrich, as always, Simeon Henderson, Anthony Cobbs, Straw, Pratt. Did I say Dietrich? Dietrich's always here. Obviously, Cobbs is always here. Jimmy Mack didn't get the memo, but thanks for coming on late. And like I said, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, Sam Gardner, the third, married to my really good friend, Sean Gardner. I appreciate you. Nisha checked in. Thank you, Nisha. And Jimmy Mack. I like to comment live. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, but we still want your reactions to everything that was said. So we know you like to see our reactions. We know that you don't necessarily. Yeah, I know. We know that you have like kind of a Draymond flow sometimes too. Him saying he's the greatest defender of all time, and I know you take exception to that. And I'd love to see your thoughts on it. And we even talked about Hagler and Leonard and all of that, things that you would say, I'm sure you're going to say Floyd Mayweather never actually stepped in the ring. It was all an illusion. I know you've got things like that to say, but thank you all for tuning in. Episode 54. We'll see you next week. Right now, it's on the docket for Thursday evening. That's our first evening episode, but I need to check with Rodney to make sure he doesn't have a football game. Do you have a football game, Rodney, Thursday?
I do, but I'll be done.
Okay, so we are on next Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for our first night show. That's 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Thank you all for checking in. Yeah, like that. Yeah, Jimmy, I really love reps. Like I said, if you're in El Segundo tonight and you want to watch some men's club lacrosse, I'll be on the field. Come check me out from 7 to 10. Episode 54. We'll see you next week. We love y'all. We out. Let me hit the countdown, Rod. Let me hit the countdown. Bam. Hold on, Rod. All right, so y'all, I tried to be gone after my countdown, but more comments came through. So to your question, Jimmy, Campus El Segundo. Dietrich says he has a game Thursday, so he might not be able to make it. Sorry, Dietrich. We'll miss you. Check out the replay, but we got to go at 6. Definitely not making bad calls in lacrosse, but will definitely be questioned, and some of my calls will be deemed bad by the, I don't want to say powers that be, because I would be the power that be, by some of the players, because they don't really know the rules, they just play. So
I'm sure Jimmy would have loved to see me get taken out last Friday night. I had a fall.
Did you?
A player tripped me up, and I took a tumble.
As you were backpedaling, or?
I was going to the goal line, and this guy cut across. I don't know why, and he hit my back foot, and I just rolled. I never saw whether he scored or not. I just looked up, and he was dancing in the end zone.
Oh man! Do you have film?
I can get it on huddle, but I
need it all right. No. So listen, I got to end this show, but you guys need to understand the back judge needs to be the deepest person on the field at all times. So Rodney is telling us that he let a high school kid get deeper than him and walk up on him and scare him like it was Halloween. So we need the film clip. We need the clip, and we got to show it next week. All right. Hey, Jimmy, please show up. I'd love for you to come hang out. TreVon is the photographer a lot of the time. Jay Moore, a lot of times, is out there shooting. I don't know if he got the contract this year or not, but if not, then I'll definitely miss him. Yeah, we need that footage for sure.
There you go.
Look at it. He keeps watering snacks for the officials. Thanks, Jimmy. Anthony thinks our countdown is creepy. I love it, but if you got a better one to suggest, send it my way. Once again, we love y'all. We out. Now I'm just going to end it. Not going to do another countdown.
Yeah.